War Eagle, War Rapport family. I'm your host, C-Dub, and today's live show was brought to you by our good friends at GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you're a restaurant owner and are looking to save energy for your business, you need to go to GWT2Energy.com. The weekend tailgate starts right now.
You are now listening to the unmistakable sound of the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate. It's your boy, Ike Jones. Be real, C-Dub, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, War Rapport family. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday. Hope you're having a great weekend. I'm here. B Will is here. Ike's here. Mike G has a day off, but you guys are here, and we're going to chop it up and talk Auburn football. Come on in, smash the like button. Please drop a War Eagle in the comment section. Please, if you're new to the War Rapport and you're watching us live for the first time, drop your city, state. We want to hear from you guys. And as always, please be sure to share our video if you're out there on social media. Please use hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Whether you're on Facebook or Twitter, it helps us out a ton and also gets the word out that we're out here dropping content for you guys in the middle of July where not much is happening, but we make it do what it do anyway. We got some great announcements and some things coming up. Ike, let's inform the people what we got, sir.
Well, you already know what we're doing in general. We getting these ticket giveaways popping off. Game one, we have the ticket giveaway going. If you want to be at the first home game of the Harsin era, you need to tap in with the War Rapport because we are giving away 2 tickets to that game. Pretty good seats too. Somebody asked where the seats were. I'll give you like a little diagram or something. I'll throw it out there on social media so people can see. We got y'all some decent seats, man. We trying to do things in the right way. But if you want to be tapped in with this, there are a couple of ways that you can enter this giveaway. We've already done a couple of free entries. You can always join and become an insider though, right? So if you are a supporter of the War Rapport, you get 2 automatic entries into this, whether that is you just did that today or you've been doing that for months, weeks, whatever. You're going to get 2 automatic entries into this giveaway. If you are an insider, you get 3 automatic entries into that. So go ahead, drop a little cash, join your boys, because you are going to want to be an insider come into the season because we have great content that we're going to be doing exclusively for you all. But anyway, one of those 2 ways gets you in the ticket entry automatically. And we're going to get another free entry that I'll talk about here in just a minute. Outside of that, you know that we are a partner with the Lee County Humane Society. That's my little guy right there, Milo. I had to put him up because otherwise he'd be trying to jump up on me because for whatever reason, if he hears me talking, he assumes that I must be talking to him and therefore he must run up and try to jump up on me. So he is in his bedroom right now, which we call it downstairs, chilling. But anyway, that's my guy right there. So you can donate to us. 50 cents on every dollar goes towards helping the rescue animals that they are doing down there. We haven't talked about this, but we do have this tag that's available in our merch store as well. The proceeds from that tag are going to the Humane Society as well. So if you don't want to just give a donation like that and you have a pet that you want to be able to get like a little tag for, you can go purchase one of those in the merch store. And we're going to be giving, again, 50 cents on every dollar that we get from that tag. You can go ahead and we're going to throw that money over there into that pot as well. Just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help out with that cause. Outside of that, you can go to the merch store to get whatever else you want to. I'm rocking my Watch the Film shirt today. We've got the Get Your Weight Up merch. We got the War Rapport signature merch. You can get any of that stuff right there in the merch store. Just go to www.thewarrapport.com. There's a little place up at the top that has the catalog. You click there, you can see all the merch that we have available. We are doing another giveaway today. So as usual, we're doing hashtag Get Your Weight Up right down there in the comments. If you want to be able to get a War Rapport mug, and you do want to get a War Rapport mug, because I mean, what else are you drinking out of? I don't know. You're drinking out of some random cup that you got from a restaurant somewhere maybe, but it ain't a War Rapport mug. So it's not actually official if you're watching the tailgate and you're not sipping from your mug. But anyway, that's all the stuff that we got popping off right now. In addition, The War Rapport podcast is a thing. We've been talking about this. It's been live for a while, but we want to make sure that you all know that we do have this great content available in podcast form. You can check us out in wherever you typically go and listen to podcasts. We are there, but we are going to be doing some special things for the podcast in the future too. So listen, I don't know how many times I have to iterate to y'all that we are stepping our game up consistently, but make sure you are tapping in with the War Rapport wherever you are, and we are going to continue to provide you with this great content. That's all I got for right now. We'll talk about the ticket giveaway details in just a minute.
Thank you for that, sir. And shout out to all of you guys in the comment section, man. We appreciate you checking in with us. Some of y'all in the car listening to us. Listen, shout out to Blake Robinson listening to us while mowing the lawn. I don't even know if he's hearing everything we're saying clearly from that loud lawnmower. I want to know what kind of headphones you're using, because I need that in my life. But shout out to you, my brother, and shout out to everyone joining us live, man, dropping to get your weight up in the comments. We want to get close to the number of people actually watching, man. Make sure you caught up too, man, because we hate to redraw if you're not here present if we call your name. So make sure to do that as well. But other than that, guys, how y'all doing, man?
Doing all right.
Yeah, all is well, man. Like I said, I told him before, I'm rolling solo with the kid today. So if you hear a random child scream in the background, it's probably my son. Hopefully it's not anything emergency. It's just him having fun. But we're just going to roll with it. Hey, listen, it is what it is. Life is happening. So we out here living it.
Hey, man, listen, that could be me in the future. So I'm going to be taking my notes and cues from y'all on how y'all able to do this show so well live with the kid in the background who does not care about what y'all are doing.
Not even a little bit. No.
So yeah, man, and I see chat saying that Raycon earbuds are the best. So no, we'll
listen, man. Hold on, man. I don't be giving no free advertising. I'm just playing. I've never actually tried.
I've never used them myself. I've been curious about them. So
yeah.
Anyway, let's get into it, man. Let's talk some football news, man. The people are here to hear us talk about football. What are we going to talk about? Well, listen, I believe Montgomery Advertiser actually dropped a story this morning about Bo Nix being at the Manning Passing Academy, and he was asked about what we can expect from Auburn this fall and how he's been adjusting to all the changes on the Plains with the new coaching staff, Bryan Harsin, and the expectations coming from that. And he made an interesting quote that I feel like we can actually kind of talk about, because it gets into what we should reasonably expect out of this offense. And one of the things that he said that stood out to me is he feels that I think we're going to have a good, solid, and disciplined team, Nick said. Offensively, we are going to have a downhill rushing attack and an explosive passing game with some play action stuff. We'll rely on the running game to develop some stuff in the passing game. We want to unpack some of that, as people like to say, and just I want to talk first and foremost with the discipline part, because it's very open-ended. It entails a whole lot. And I kind of want to stick to kind of the offensive side of the ball. We know being fundamentally sound and disciplined on defense is especially important, especially in this day and age where people like to air it out. You want to be disciplined in the pass defense. But let's talk specifically about the offense. I'm gonna start with you. Ike. When you hear a disciplined team offensively, what are some of the first things, man, that comes to your mind that maybe we may have been lacking at Auburn? What are some things you want to see at Auburn when it comes to being a disciplined team on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that come to mind. Now, I don't think that we were terrible in penalties. We weren't like the most penalized team or anything like that. We definitely had some issues. If we're talking about the offensive side of the ball, we had some issues. The biggest thing I think that we had is because of the way that we called plays, meaning the check with me system. We had issues getting lined up properly and then making sure that we could move at the speed at which Gus Malzahn wanted to, right? So that's disappointing considering how small they had shrunk the playbook, right? Like when we had the Chad Morris installation, they weren't running that entire playbook. So for us to not be able to get lined up and go quickly within that framework of the offense is disappointing. When you move, the years before that, regardless of whoever the offensive coordinator was, we were trying to run pretty much a version of what Gus Malzahn's initial system was, which is really about 5 or 6 plays, and so not being able to get lined up and go fast in those instances where you're having to call timeouts in inopportune situations because you weren't in the right thing, or delay of game penalties, happening because we weren't lined up. That's lacking discipline, because that's not understanding what your responsibility is on a play-to-play basis. Outside of that, then it comes to a situation where the offensive line not understanding what their assignments were in a blocking situation, right? So whether it is trying to adjust to a blitz or just fundamentally understanding who your man is when you're doing run blocking, we weren't disciplined in those areas of the game either. And that showed in play execution. When you're talking about, for all of our misgivings about what the offensive coordinators are. And yes, Lawrence, I'm sorry, I mentioned Chad Morris, and I know that's like trigger warning. I should have said that before I mentioned his name. But for all
Lawrence, she was gonna mention him anyway. I don't even know how you acted.
We could have been talking about ice cream Sunday. You'd be like, man, Chad Morris probably melt ice cream, just on purpose. But I forgot what I was even saying. What was I talking about?
Well,
despite our misgivings about like what the play calls were and how elementary maybe the playbook was under Gus Malzahn, in his mind, every play that he called was supposed to work, right? So if you block it to the expectations of what Gus says, then it's going to get, it's going to score a touchdown every play, right? Because he's the offensive genius, right? His mindset is, if I call the play in this way, it should work. Touchdown is available every single play. So, we could say maybe it was the execution of the players and not necessarily the play call that resulted in a lot of those issues. Or we could say, wide receivers dropping passes. Like we talked about this ad nauseum about how some of our wide receivers just didn't have focus at the catch point. I'm not going to call anybody any names today. I'm going to stay away from calling names. But we do know there are receivers who had the issues with drops, specifically just at inopportune times, right? Like there were times where, Bo might have made something magic happen by escaping the pocket, and he hits the guy downfield and he drops the pass, or he actually stays in the pocket and delivers from the pocket, wide open guy, pass gets dropped, right? And so there are issues that we've had with focus, discipline. When you talk about, we've talked about Seth Williams and his flexing on the field, right? Like that's a discipline issue. We've talked about the blow-ups that happen on the sideline between coaches and players, between players and players. Those are discipline issues. When you don't have discipline, and it manifests itself during the game in a lot of ways that then makes you wonder, what are these kids being coached, right? I know I
listen,
went on for a minute, but that's all facts.
What I'm learning is that you don't have to say a single player's name, because the guys in the comments are going to let people know who you're talking about. You don't have to.
I don't have to say it. We know what's up. Like I haven't. So here's the thing. I haven't waffled off of my stance on those things, right? Like I've been very clear. This is how I feel about certain things. It is what it is. Like I may have created the nickname, but I did not create the drops that garnered the nickname. All right. So it is what it is.
Listen, I'm going to ask you this, B, and you get a chance to kind of give your thoughts aside from this. What do you thought? This happened last year in 2020, but it's happened in other years too, where we've heard talks of them having to simplify the offense for the sake of them being able to go fast so that players can understand, right? Yeah. How concerning was that for you? Or what does that say also from a discipline standpoint? When you're hearing that we having to constantly, and this is a coach previous coach, they were around long enough for the guys to understand the offense to be able to play fast in it. Of course, you got to tweak it here and there based on your personnel. But what does that say? What does that say to the fact that we had to kind of simplify the offense too often late in the past administration?
I think we had to simplify the offense because it was maybe some high hopes early in each season that our personnel could do exactly what Gus wanted to do. And it took some games of us honestly looking embarrassing. It usually over the first 4 or 5 games. And after that point, then he goes, all right, well, we may have to change something. And once he changes something, it's quite often going to be, let's make this simple. And it's not that simple is bad. Simple is not bad if you have the personnel to make simple unstoppable. 2013 was probably the most simple version of offense that we ran under Gus Malzahn in his 8 years. And it was the most effective. And I'm saying most effective compared to 2017 because unlike 2017, you knew what was coming. And you can't stop it. That is the most effective thing. I don't think we lined up in 2004 trying to confuse you if we were going to just throw it to the wideouts all game. No. Ronnie Brown, Cadillac, here, try to stop it. And you can't, so we win. Gus had the benefit of great personnel to make that possible in 2013. Since then, it's been a combination of, all right, well, do I have the personnel I want? Do I even want to do that style of offense anymore? And we, as fans, were trying to guess. Is he trying to do that? Well, shouldn't he get the running guy? Shouldn't he just load up on big guards and tackles and say, I'm not chasing these wide receivers that are 4 or 5 stars? But he did. He went for the guy with the biggest arm or that were pocket guys at quarterback. He went for wide receivers that looked like they had size and speed. And it didn't work out because his system never accounted for the fact that you don't have the offensive line to execute these passing plays. You do not. You never got that.
Well, let me not like interrupt you, but like it wasn't even that he didn't have the offensive line to do that. The way that those plays were called, it automatically, like the way the blocking scheme is 9 times out of 10 with an RPO, you're going to have a guy that's unaccounted for.
Right.
Like that's the way that it's designed so that there's a free rusher that's going to be coming from somewhere that the quarterback has to read. Right. 9 times out of 10, like unless you're doing some sort of max protect or you're keeping the running back in to chip on that guy, most of the time it's going to be a free end, a free outside linebacker, or a free line or some sort of middle linebacker that you by design is unaccounted for that the quarterback has to account for because the idea is to give him the option to run, hand the ball off for the run, throw a pass, or run himself. And the quarterback makes that decision based upon what the other stuff is surrounding that, right? Like he's reading, numbers to the outside and then numbers in the box. And then we're making a decision at the handoff point. So it's not even just like we don't have the offensive line. The offensive strategy says you need a guy who can make somebody miss.
Right.
But
that, again, if you are going to not have a guy to make somebody miss, then you need an offensive line that is doing something. We're talking an all-world offensive line.
Yes.
And we never had it. So at some point, you've got to figure out if we don't have something key to do what I want to do, I need to change what I want to do. And he didn't ever change it. He just dialed it back enough to make it more possible than it was for however he initially envisioned it. And that's why he dialed it back. I do think some of it was, as I've told people before, even what you do on the field is recruiting. And we all know that because we think that recruiting for the 2022 class is going to pick up once we put something on the field that shows the promise of what Harsin wants to do. And what I mean by it's recruiting is if you put a guy back there at quarterback and he hands the ball off 60 times a game, then you're not going to get the all-world quarterback who wants to put up numbers and win a Heisman and go number 1 overall in the draft. So he wants a guy that he may not have the reputation to get because all you've had successfully is Nick Marshall. We're talking about halfway through his tenure. So you've got to either sell him something he hasn't seen, or you've got to make your current guy do what you want the next guy to know. If that's me, then I'm going to get what I want there. Right. And he's recruiting through how he's coaching the offense, through how he's calling the plays, which is why we were wondering for the last 2 years, why is he trying to make Bo throw all the time? Man, turn around, hand it off, and let's go. You know why? Because he's trying to sell the wide receivers. Look how many times I threw it to this guy. That's your number one guy right there. You can be that number one guy. Look how many touches you're going to get. But it never worked. It never worked unless we were playing against people who could not, that we were clearly more talented than, and we could beat up on them. But if we weren't, we were struggling. We were getting embarrassed on the field, and it looked very bad. So he had a recruitment problem because his offense didn't translate to the NFL as far as the skill position players and what they were prepared for. And that was kind of, that cat was out of the bag. So he needed to at least put production on the field by how he called the plays and what he got for the skill position players and the quarterback. And that didn't work either. So it was a catch-22 for Gus. As we've talked about plenty of times, and I'll get off the Gus thing, he didn't want to change how his system ran. We don't know if it was ego. We don't know if it was a staunch refusal of the administration above him trying to get him to change who he is and how he wants to play. A lot of those things can come into play, but ultimately it was his choice not to go with what clearly worked and worked well, which was get a guy who's primarily dynamic. He can make things happen. It might not be the most accurate guy. He might not have the most accurate arm downfield, but if things get tight, he's going to do something. He didn't want to get that guy. He had chances. A Heisman winner and NFL MVP wanted to come here as a quarterback, and he told him, well, we like you as a wide receiver. That was a crystallization of what Gus decided to do at the quarterback position, and the rest is history.
Listen, and again, those are things that led to why we have a new coach, right? Yeah. So I want to do a comparison between in 2019 we did a comparison in terms of like penalties, fumbles, because we're talking about this discipline thing as it pertains to the offense. Now the thing about these stats, and I have to explain these stats, I want you guys to see this visual here, is these penalties take into account all aspects of the game, whether it's special teams, defense, and offense. So we can't fully attribute the penalties just to the offensive side of the ball, right? But I just want us to get an idea of what we can expect.
I think like 6 of those was probably Moultrie jumping off sides. No, I'm just sorry. I haven't been here. I have to take random shots at people. This is what I do. Continue. Sorry.
Hopefully Moultrie isn't listening. So this is 2019. I don't like the 2020 stats because as I look across different teams, we understand what COVID did. Some people barely played at all.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah.
So I'm going to 2019 just to give us an idea. Auburn was penalized a total, and of course this has come from Auburn's website. Auburn's penalized a total of 92 times. They averaged 7.08 penalties a game. They racked up about 761 total yards and penalties, leading to an average of 55.23 yards in penalty yards per game. Auburn actually put the ball on the ground 25 times, lost it 11. Now, let's kind of look at what Boise did. We understand different conference, different competition. We know. But let's
Whitlow probably fumbled the ball 8 of these.
Yeah, that's what Cole said. I was thinking that
you're not wrong. Okay, but let's look at what Boise did by comparison. They were penalized 76 times. Boise averaged 5.43 penalties a game, and also it's interesting to note Boise played one extra game because they actually played in their conference championship that year. So they actually played 14 games as opposed to Auburn playing 13 games in 2019. So Boise ended up averaging 5.43 penalties per game, racking up a total of 695 yards in penalties, leading to an average of 49.64 penalty yards a game. They actually put the ball on the ground 19 times, losing it a total of 8. So again, something that we didn't talk about. Missed assignments, guys, receivers not blocking on the perimeter. These are things that you can't quantify by a stat, but these are some stats that we can actually use to gauge and get an idea of what we can expect, potentially expect from a Bryan Harsin. They appear to be a little bit more coached, as it pertains to penalties. Harsin seems to have a better numbers as it regards to that. So I just want to know from you guys, just when you think about these things that have just been nagging us as it pertains to penalties and being undisciplined and guys almost getting penalties. I just knew Seth Williams was going to get penalized a few times after either scoring a touchdown or doing whatever. But what is that? How does that make you feel about the coach we have now? And is it reasonable to expect, with everything being so new in year one, more discipline as it pertains to how we protect the football, discipline in terms of penalties? Like what are our expectations there? I'll start with you, B. Will.
I expect us to be more disciplined, but I don't know if that is a one-for-one translation to the number of penalties. Penalties on the offensive line are often because of what the defense is doing. So that depends on the defense that you see. That depends on if you've been focused all week on a particular defensive lineman or a particular alignment that a team shows you, and you're a little scared about it because, hey, what if they got an all-world guy over there? And then he makes a move. He's at a different spot on the line, and y'all are talking and touching, trying to make sure, hey, do we see that? Some pre-snap movement from him just to fake, and you jump. I don't know if that's not discipline. That is, you have to be aware of who you got. I mean, that's why some defensive linemen are offsides, because they may be worried about what a running back is going to do in a certain alignment. So some of that doesn't change because of how disciplined you are. It's simply, who are you playing? How prepared are you? And how conscious of you of what they're capable of. But I'm trying to think about what penalties would do, how that would reflect in the system on discipline. And the only thing I can think is fumbles. I think about fumbles a lot in special teams because there was a year, I'm trying to think what year it was. It was a few years ago. We were awful on special teams. We were giving up
2019, the year that we're talking about. We could not cover kicks to save our life. Like, I was just like, why don't just tell Carlson to kick it through the back of it? Don't kick it to anybody because we're not going to cover it. Like, I just didn't understand why, because it felt intentional, because his leg is big enough to kick it out of the back of the end zone. Like, why are we kicking it 3 yards short and letting them run the ball? You know what?
I was like, maybe he's tired. Maybe he's tired because he had to kick a lot of field goals.
You know who was supposed to be coaching the special teams that year?
Who?
Gus.
Oh, really?
Really?
The whole yes, because at the beginning of the season, what they decided they were going to do is, because we started out with that like stupid swinging gate last year on the first play. Like, he was trying to like do all this inventive stuff with special teams because he didn't 2020 for sure. He wasn't touching the offense. He was actually letting Chad Morris run it. Sorry, Lawrence. He was letting Chad Morris run the offense. The whole concept of how we did that crap during the bowl game actually was like a Gus concept that he started under Muschamp, which was, I'll coach the offense, you coach the defense, such and such coaches the special teams, as opposed to a head coach who oversees people doing a bunch of stuff, right? And he just kind of continued that until he got to Chip Lindsey for whatever reason, and he decided, yeah, you're the offensive coordinator, but like halfway through the season, no, I want to come back and start calling plays again because I don't like the way that this is going, and doing his own thing. And then he got back into the whole, I coach this, you coach this, you coach this. But he started coaching special teams more when he was like kind of forced to hand over play calling duties. And our special teams started to suck. Like, that's just that. I don't make up the facts. I just tell them. That's just, it is what it is. Anyway, continue. Special teams.
With his reach into special teams, and we were very bad 2019, but we had some more than average penalties there as well. So it seems that one problem that this staff has solved, I guess we'll see when the season starts, is that they got a coach for every different thing. There's nobody going, hey, let me help you with that. No, as a matter of fact, everybody is pretty much overqualified for their position, if not very qualified. You've got defensive coordinators who are coming in just to coach the line or the outside linebackers. And that is important. You got a head coach coaching the defense. That's good. That's great. Bobo has been a head coach. He's coaching the offense. And when you've got that type of specialization, guys who have done it all know how valuable it is to only have a singular focus and make that area better. And I think that's what that's where we'll show some better discipline. And you won't have somebody who's got to do 3 jobs to just help tell you how to do one job. You've got a guy who's only focused on one job, helping you as a player understand that job and execute that job. And that's something that we hear a lot about, not only from Bo, not only from former Boise people, and even Brad LaRondo, when he sat down and talked to us, he is such a detailed person. I'm going to focus on this thing in detail. And for it to stick out and to come from everybody that we talk to, that means it has to be at least a difference between this current administration and the last. If Gus was detailed and Harsin's detailed, then I don't think players would be like, wow, this is really detailed. No, because everybody's saying that. Everybody keeps talking about detail. So that leads me to believe that there's going to be a focus on the particulars, learning how to play the position in a way that we weren't getting from the last staff. And I think that will in turn decrease penalties. And you can't decrease fumbles. Some guys are more prone to it than others, and we can't do anything about that. Though, as a matter of fact, those 2019 numbers,
you can. I mean, you can, but see, here's how you decrease fumbles in my mind. So again, I'm not a football coach. I'm not a football player. Ball security is something that you stress. Like, it is just a thing. You stress it, you stress it, you stress it. If you have a guy who's consistently not secure with the ball, you stop playing that guy. I get it. Boopy was our best back.
I agree.
But if he's going to put the ball on the ground and put you in situations where you're going to be vulnerable just because he's not securing the ball consistently, then he can't play. Like, I don't care how good you are fumble to fumble. Them fumbles matter, right? Like, everything in between becomes irrelevant because you're not tuned in, or you're not locked in the entirety of the game. And some fumbles now, it's just, slick ball because of elements, or, defense just made a really great play. That's different than I just ran the ball 60 something yards and almost got to the end zone, and the defender comes behind me and pokes the ball out because I didn't secure it all the way through. The play I'm thinking about specifically, Anthony Schwartz luckily is hustling and he gets the ball in the end zone. But that's Booby, not. He was tired. I get it. You're tired. But that's the time where your discipline has to kick in even more and say, I'm going to secure this all the way through the end of the play. And he did that way too often. I don't really like talking about players that aren't currently on the team, but it is what it is. Like, this is relevant to the conversation. He put the ball on the ground often.
Yeah, too often. And he recovered. I remember that Mississippi State game in 2018 was so frustrating because he fumbles, that was a game we shouldn't have lost.
Never mind.
But, and I think too, when I talking about discipline, to me, what I want to see is a good indication of a disciplined team is how they play on the road in a hostile environment. To me, that's because you can fumble the ball, you can put the ball on the ground. It happens. It's going to happen. You're going to get penalized. It's going to happen. It's just a part of the game. In many cases, it just depends on when the ref wants to call it, right? Because you can see what you see holding almost every play. You can see a pass interferences. It can go either way, right? Just depending on the situation and the scenario. But for me, an indication of a disciplined team is what they're doing on the road when they're in a hostile environment. I can't hear those signals the way that I normally do, and I have to focus on what I've been repping consistently on a daily basis over the summer, in practice, in meetings. I can zero in on what I'm supposed to do, and I do it regardless of what. I can tune everything out, the opposition, the noise, and play. We've seen far too many examples where a team, or our team on the road, Georgia is just a clear indication where we look like a deer in headlights at times. Yeah. And so what I want to see is when we get in a hot Penn State, we're going to make some mistakes, but I want to see mentally how we bounce back.
Yeah.
Do we improve on what we're doing from the offensive line? Do the receivers understand what they're supposed to be doing?
Right.
What are they doing when the play has nothing to do with them? Right. Yeah. Are they blocking on the perimeter? Are they doing those things that they're supposed to be doing? And when the ball gets thrown their way, do they make a play? Like, to me, those are indications of what, because see, you can almost get away with making mistakes at home because you have a crowd to kind of balance that out. Right. So what I want to know is when we look a little sloppy on the road, and it'll happen. When we open up, the other team's going to be amped. The crowd's going to be loud. We may have a false start here or hold there or whatever. How do we come back out on the field and respond to that? To me, that's going to tell a big difference from a discipline standpoint as opposed to where we've been previously. From
a fan standpoint, I never felt like we had the capability of coming back in football games.
Never.
Like it didn't feel like after Nick Marshall there, I didn't feel that magic of like, hey, we're still in this game. Cause I felt like Nick Marshall could just take it to the house literally in any given play.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when you get past Nick Marshall and you get into the Jeremy Johnson / White years, like if we was down in the game, where were we gonna get points? We can't score. And you get now into the Bo Nix era, like we couldn't score quickly enough to make it make sense. If we were down by more than 10 points, I felt like the game was effectively out of hand. And then we would always do something to give me that little glimmer of hope. Oh, we gonna catch him, and then follow that up with something unbelievably stupid. And I was just like, see, this is why this is what, when you have the conversation with Alan Green and he talks about lost hope that happens. That was where we were. We were at a place where, like, you know what? We don't actually have a prayer this game. Like, let's just keep it a buck. We're gonna lose.
Right.
There is no hope that our team can actually win this game. We can rivalry and throw the record, but no, we're gonna get blasted.
Right.
Yeah. It's something beautiful that happens when I saw it last night, actually, the NBA Finals, right? So the Bucks are down huge at the end of the first quarter, but it was very important. Like I almost went live from the War Rapport Twitter account and said, please bet every dime you have on the Bucks right now while they're down 18 or whatever it was.
I knew I felt like the Bucks were going to win that game.
They were going to come back.
The Suns aren't.
They were going to come back because there were two things that were happening simultaneously. Number one, the Suns were shooting out of their minds. They were shooting like 14 of 18 for a quarter. Nobody is going to shoot at that clip for an entire NBA game. It's not going to happen. No team as a collective. Number two, somebody was on the bench. I think Drew Holiday was on the bench with 2 fouls already. So the guy who controls Chris Paul was out of the game. What that told me was over the last 2 games prior, the Bucks beat them 2 times straight. Now you may say, hey, that's just a home court advantage. If the Bucks were even able to close that to 5 by halftime, that's it, game's over. Because we took your best shot. We have collected ourselves. And every moment from there, they did it faster than I thought. It only took a quarter for them to actually outscore Phoenix. And I bring that up because when a team is hitting that stride, you see it in football. What it looks like in football is you come out for the second half and your defense gets that stop. You've been getting manhandled the whole first half. Your defense gets a stop.
The national championship, us against Florida State. That's exactly how it happened. So,
gets a stop. They feel it. It's like, okay, they shocked us. We got hit. But the coaches go, all right, we see what they're doing. And the players believe it because they've had an entire season of their coach's game plans working. So there's confidence in the fact that whatever he gives us to adjust is going to work. So you don't have to sell it to listen, you're going to do this thing that we've never practiced. No, you listen to me because I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. I tell you things and it works. So listen to your coaches, do your job. The players believe, the coaches adjust, and that momentum starts to roll. And man, it is a beautiful thing when it happens. And I bring that up because I think it was 2019 when Boise played Florida State. Was that year or was it 2018?
I think it was 19. I think it was 19.
I was rooting ever since we lost to Florida State in the national championship game. I have been anti-Jimothy independent of Florida State. There were some Florida State fans that I ended up following on Twitter and having a friendly back and forth with for like a year after that. And then they got real salty because they lost the championship in the playoff in 2014. They lost bad to Oregon and they were real salty. And I was jiving at them, you know what I'm saying? And they got a little in their feelings about it. And then the next year they got worse and they didn't want to talk anymore. So I have actively rooted against Florida State ever since then. And so when I saw Boise State, Michael Myers slow walking down Florida State in that game, It just did something for me. It was so beautiful and wonderful. And I very much enjoy that from the fans that are about to lose. Actually, us at Bama 2010 was another time. It's like we saw it. It's like, oh man, they always believed because we had Cam. Everybody believed because we had Cam. And you see the tide start to turn in real time. Guys are making plays. And the offensive play calling did, Gus was always a good offensive coordinator. And he was good at that at that time. And I believe that we have a coach that knows how to empower that team outside of an unnatural force like Cam Newton, because he was the driving force for the offense. But Hank Bachmeier, he's not Cam Newton. Boys just had some dudes that believe, man. That's all they had. They had some dudes that believe. And as C brought up on a previous episode, every player on Florida State's roster was probably a better athlete than Boise's roster. It did not matter. On the road, and in front of a crowd that expected to win, more than likely. Maybe they didn't expect, because I think they were having a rough season already. But man, that it was just beautiful to see. If our coach can instill that type of confidence in players that are outmatched, what can he do with talent that is equally matched in the SEC? What we've been lacking is confidence in the play calling, confidence in the strategy, competent strategy. If we have those things now, oh my God, it's gonna be It's gonna be outrageous. I can't wait.
I think that contributed a lot to it. Was just the players didn't think it's like, all right, they're not gonna call a play that's gonna be effective. I'm not gonna get the ball. This like, God help him, Seth Williams and his disengaged self on and off throughout plays are just like, all right, well, this is gonna be a run play. I don't really need to be involved here. Like I get. There's a difference between I'm dead on the play, meaning like it's not designed to go to me, it's supposed to go this other way, and I'm disengaged on a play, right? And that's the difference between, I think, championship culture and the culture that we were starting to have here, which was, it doesn't matter on this play. Right. And it can't not matter to you every single play.
And that's something that in the clip we saw with Auburn football, AU football on Twitter, when they were showing drills of these guys in the offseason working out, you saw a clip of Harsin says everything that you do matters. And so to me, that's just signs of things to come, a different culture. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm hoping there's something to what Bo Nix is definitely saying, that we could see a different offense, a new and improved offense, an offense that is more disciplined. It may not show up in the stat book, in the stat column, with everything being so new, but I think I'm looking forward to seeing some of the things that we've been bemoaning for the past few years about the offense change under this new coaching staff. And it may take a year to do it. It may take 2 years, but I'm looking forward to the changes. Want to shout out one of our super chats, Eric Coleman. Appreciate you, brother. He says he wish we could go live at SEC Media Days Thursday. Listen, one day. One day.
10,000 more YouTube subscribers. We get more insiders.
Hey, listen, if you guys want to see stuff like this happen, we need y'all to continue to help us grow. Get the word out to more Auburn fans. I know you know more Auburn fans than are here. It's only 168 of y'all here right now. There's definitely more than 168 Auburn fans. We've only got like 3,300 YouTube subscribers. There are definitely more than 3,300 Auburn fans. We need more people, and then they'll be like, "Oh, these guys are legit. We need to bring them in." We need y'all help to make that happen.
We need y'all. Let's go ahead.
Shout out Steve Vest who made a live. He usually catches us after the fact. The comparison of stats in a specific year isn't that good. Listen, Steve, you're challenging me. There's a trend here when we do it. It's just that kind of difficult to get that on the morning of the show, but just wanted to show just side by side year.
I think that it is fair though, because it's not as if Boise is like they're playing equal level. Like we're talking about
equal to their level of
talent. If it's level 3 and level 5, right? But they're playing on their level, right? So you can compare what they're doing comparatively on their level. I think that's fair.
I'll say this too. And this is something that where we could have gone with this conversation. I think in this same year, I think there were. I know some people said that there were. I think Georgia may have been more penalized than us in the SEC. I thought Bama may. I think Bama had more yards or penalties per game or something like that. There were teams that were heavily penalized, a lot like we were, who were far better in 2019 than we were. Even though we did beat Bama had a better record. We know what LSU did. So we know that stat, penalties and the like, in and of itself isn't a true indicator of whether or not that team did well. It just seems for us, when we were off for whatever reason. And so that has to take into account just our performance moving forward, that we clean those things up, a lot of things going to fall in place as well. Sure. Because it was just linked to a culture aspect. So anyway, we're at the halfway point. Guys, please be sure to share this video, do the like. Let's let the people know what we're giving away today.
Yeah, but speaking of sharing the video, this is what I want all of you people who are out here on Twitter to do. I want you to go and we tweeted out the link for this show before the show started. Go retweet that link and make sure, if you, whatever you're doing, that we are added in that tweet. So like, make sure that it adds the War Rapport and like your comment. So don't just retweet. I want you to retweet with a comment so you can add the War Rapport so we can see all of that. And make sure you hashtag Get Your Weight Up. But you also have to be following us on Twitter. You do that, I'm going to get you a free entry into this ticket giveaway today. So I want that Twitter to start blowing up here. Tweak that link out. Make sure you're adding the War Rapport and you're following us, and you will get a free entry into this ticket giveaway for this coming up first game of the Harsin era at home against Akron. Outside of that, we are giving away the mug today. So if you want to get your War Rapport mug, you need to be hashtagging Get Your Weight Up right here in the comments section. We're partnered with the Lee County Humane Society. Of course, we've been talking about this off and on. If you're donating there, then you are making sure that we are helping to do the work in rescuing these wonderful animals out here. If you are not already, you need to be signed up for a membership, whether that's supporter level or insider level. You're going to get good stuff at either level. I'm just letting you know those insiders got some really dope things coming up once the season gets started. Somebody asked earlier, when is B Will going to start doing the betting stuff? Don't worry, it's coming real soon. We haven't picked the date yet. B Will, do you want to talk about that for a second? You
actually, I would love to. You know, you're gonna hear about that before the end of this month. We're going to start. What we'll lead into is going to be explanatory. Just a really good way to work ourselves into betting shape before we hit the college football season that first weekend. So it's coming. We're going to go over some groundwork with sports betting for those that aren't familiar, and we will have some extended picks and strategy sessions for insiders.
Yeah. So insiders, just know you're going to get the juicy B Will nuggets coming up very soon. Hit that merch store if you want to support us in some other ways. We definitely have the dope merch out there. The podcast, we are getting geared up with that podcast. You're going to have content. So, hey, if you miss a show and you can't catch it on YouTube and you're driving or you're taking the shower, don't worry. We got that in podcast format popping up for you right now. All the places where you normally get podcasts, we are there. So make sure you tap in with us with all of those things. Yeah.
And nothing else matters in this moment until we address War Down. Thank you, sir. We need more discipline. Gus' red zone offense was a clown show that couldn't even produce clowns. Harsin has to fix this. Listen, I mentioned this before. Malzahn's offense, to me, seems like it was built to operate between the 20s, right?
Yes.
Downhill, play action over the top. But when we got inside an opponent's 20 and he couldn't throw the ball downfield and teams could stack the box, our offense just fizzled out. And it was amazing that we was able to do what we were able to do in some years with the talent we had, what defenses knew we were going to do. I'm just looking forward to seeing utilization of the tight ends, running backs coming out of the backfield. Like I'm eager to see us do some different things schematically to take advantage of what the defense is doing so that we can be much more effective in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's be clear. Gus Malzahn made stars of our kickers. He did. He made the kicker
These
one
are
of the
facts.
stars of the offense because we could not score once we got inside 20, 30 yards from the end zone. It was just the offense was grinding to a halt consistently. Like, that's not even like, again, outside of the dynamic quarterback who allowed you to do a few more things in that RPO, once we got past that, it was non-existent. The offense just died. So you just didn't have things that you could call that we could consistently get into that could get us points inside the red zone. And that meant that once we got inside it also meant that we got a little more conservative as we got closer to the end zone, because it's like, all right, well, we know he's good from here, right? So like, just don't throw a pick, right? Or, you know, like, it doesn't really matter what we call, as long as we don't lose yardage. He's good from right around this range. We're good to go. He knew he was going to get points. And it also made him be more tentative.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'll definitely say this as many times as I want to. Juicy B Will Nuggets. I will say that as many times as I
think I would War Dam on that. I'm
just gonna say it.
The nutritional value might not be there with.
I'm gonna make sure I say it every time I'm on the show now. So
big pause. You know what I'm saying? Super pause.
Yeah. There's no pauses in that at all. If whatever your mind is going to is not there. So I'm just gonna continue to say that. I'll just throw that in whenever I feel like it now.
Yeah, the visual that I have is just.
I don't know where y'all brains are going. Anyway,
what you got,
continue
right here? He was like, "You have to believe in your leader, Cam and Nick Marshall. Do players believe in Bo?" And I want to change.
I would say, I'll let you finish.
Players,
go ahead.
Players like Bo. I don't think players dislike Bo. I think the problem is, if you don't believe in the game plan, if you don't believe in the strategy, if you don't believe in the coaching system, then you know, if this stuff doesn't work, it's going to be a long game. Nothing's going to work. You're immediately disengaged. Even if Bo isn't an unbelievable all-world game-changing talent like Cam and Nick Marshall were, if you know that your coach knows how to flip a switch and get some other guys involved and get the offense moving, they don't have to believe in Bo. Bo just has to follow instruction, and the players will do their jobs knowing that it will push everybody to the destination. You don't have to have an all-world leader if the entire system is built for success. That's what
so what I was going to say is, I think that over time, there were players that lost their confidence in Bo. Like, we can't ignore the fact that he came out freshman year and beat Oregon in the fashion that we did, right? Like, you can't ignore that. He didn't have a great game, but he had moxie. And so I think people thought to themselves, okay, I got a warrior here with me who, like, when it's down, he's gonna be a gamer, gonna come up that. But then as you go on the road later in the year and he doesn't repeat that, you're like, maybe not. And then, you know, a couple of overthrows and errant passes later, you're like, I don't know. And you get late into the season and he misses a dump off pass that was like 3 yards away from him, and you're like, nah. I don't know, cuz. And then you get into year 2 on a COVID shortened off season where nobody really even fully understands the offense, and all you've got is just kind of the instincts of Bo Nix to go off of, and you're like, I definitely don't trust that.
Right.
And the season manifests itself in game 1 again against Kentucky. He makes a couple of good plays, and you're like, okay, maybe. Then you go on the road and you're like, yep, more of that. And your hope is done. It's dashed at that point because you don't trust the offensive game plan because you don't fully understand the playbook. And what you're left with is Bo's instincts, and those instincts you don't trust because they're manifesting the same kind of errors over and over again. Because game 2, when we played Georgia the next game, every little bit of hope you thought you might have had was gone. It was just like, all right, no, he didn't actually get any better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But then again, we're going to find.
Let me say this: Bo lost confidence in his offensive line too, and so that just kind of completely destroyed the whole thing.
But again, that's culture. That just goes right back to the culture that they're instilling, man. And I just think that there are some things that Bo has to work on, but we have a coach who wants competition at every position. He wants to upgrade each position group in the room. this year is a year to determine if Bo is going to be the leader the guys can follow and are willing to follow this year. Because if he isn't, there is another guy behind him who came here to Auburn for the sole reason of leading the team. That's Finley. Right. So it's just a different day. It's a different day. Bo has to show and prove. I believe he has a coaching staff that's not setting him up to succeed and do what they're asking him to do so he can be the leader he needs to be. He can reach his potential. I feel that that's what we have in this coaching staff. It's up to Bo. He's in the driver's seat. So
guys, we are definitely official now because the weather is following us. So hopefully we'll be able to make sure that game days always have really great football weather. So thank you, weather, for joining the War Rapport. And we definitely appreciate you coming on board.
We have one more segment. We do have one more topic that we can talk about. But before we do, let's go ahead and give this mug away, man. Let's go ahead and do that part since we're almost at the hour mark. We don't want to cut the conversation short.
47 entries. I'm gonna stop giving away mugs because y'all don't appreciate my mugs, man. I don't know what to do with this. 47 entries and 174 people. Listen, if you don't want the mug, then just say I don't want the mug, bro. Like I just don't know what to do about that. But we are going to give it away, whether you want it or not. Somebody's going to get one of these joints. So 47 people said, let me get that thing. So we now have 49. Get your weight up is the hashtag. I am going to make this pull in 15 seconds. If you are
at least let's get to at least 50. Can we get a 50 a 50? Okay, 51. All right.
So and in 5 seconds, I'm doing this drawing and we're going to get it popping. Here we go. All right, let's see who's going to win this week. The War Rapport mug is going to be going to the lucky winner of weather. Just got here and I saw the name flash up there. So what's up? Jordan Gilly. Jordan Gilly, make sure you drop.
Jordan, are you here? Jordan, are you here?
I know it's a little bit of a delay on when we see those and when y'all place those, so we'll wait for a second and see. Somebody said they want that jacket that Mike G wears. We might give as it gets cooler.
Probably in the season. Probably in the closer to the season. And he's here.
Jackets. Jordan Gilly, what's up? Yeah, you need to give us your address, your mailing address to business at the War Rapport, and we can get you that mug in the mail. And make sure that you have that to sip on as we have some lovely somebody asked about the drinking games that we're going to be doing during the season. We'll have a different thing that we might do. Like, see, the good thing about being an insider is that you will give we'll have that during the game stuff that we're going to do that we'll tell you about in the pregame. And then so you'll know in the post game how many shots you're supposed to do or what the thing was. So, but you got to be an insider to be a part. Like, I'm not going to give y'all the whole game. I'm just telling you there are benefits to being an insider this season. Somebody says you want a black mug. Ethan says a black mug. I can see about trying to do that. Let me see if I can get you a black mug with maybe some orange or some white on there.
I think I want a black mug. That's
okay. That's a good idea.
As a matter of fact, can I get an all black mug with the podcast logo and whatnot right there?
I'll see what I could do about that.
Yeah, brainstorming on the fly, man.
Yeah, it's going down. It's going down.
I like that.
No, Corey, you just lost, buddy. Keep the faith. I still believe in you. You can do this. Okay, I need you to win so I can start rooting for other people too. All right.
I know, right?
Guys, let's talk about recruiting. We kind of alluded to it on this past Wednesday with Big Cat coming back, and our friend over at auburnsports.com, Brian Matthews, actually wrote an article talking about this not long after our Wednesday night live show. He kind of talked about. He talked about a former player who's now a DB coach, Zach Etheridge, and he talked about when he was on the team how the coaching staff under Chizik basically came up with the idea for this. And he had some statements in here that I thought were interesting that we can kind of talk about. And here's his quotes, or here's his quote. So we're excited to have Big Cat and have a bunch of guys we're expecting to come in, just come have fellowship, kick back, barbecue, get a chance to see us outside of just pitch, and then Zoom. So I thought that was a very interesting statement. And, we have been kind of talking about this kind of offline. And many people have been bringing a lot of attention to recruiting under Harsin, the fact that it's been kind of slow. I think we had the least amount of commitments for the 2022 class in the SEC. I know that I think we have, is it 4 now or 5? I think it's 5 now. 5 commitments, I believe.
Yeah.
I know we had a kid decommit about a week ago.
We had 6 and then Stinson decommitted.
Yeah, so I think we have 5. So, but I think it's very interesting that we're doing Big Cat now. Usually this is an event early in the year. And I thought it was very interesting based on what Zach Etheridge talked about, that, hey, we were pitching, but I think we need to kind of sit back and just have fun with these kids and really get an opportunity for them to get to know who we are, see our personalities. What do you think? To me, I think that this is a good idea because it actually shows Harsin making an adjustment before he even plays a game. But in terms of making an adjustment, in terms of recruiting, does this mean anything to you guys? And I'll start with you, B. Will. What are your thoughts about this coaching staff trying to make adjustments to make inroads with some of these guys? There's some big names who we're expecting to make a decision or commitment soon in the next few weeks. And it looks like Auburn is about to start to get the ball rolling. But what does Big Cat signal to you with this coaching staff in terms of them? Are they adjusting, or was this already par for the course?
I think it's possible they could be adjusting they had a plan coming in. Well, let's back it up. They came in here during a COVID off season where they were new in the region. The majority of the coaches on the staff are not from the SEC.
Yeah.
And they don't have the inroads with the recruits in the area. They don't have the inroads with the high school coaches and programs in the area. And they are behind the 8 ball. They have been, and that was going to be a reality. They did what they could with the 2021 class. Thank God for the transfer portal and the new transfer rules, because if it weren't for those, we would be down bad, real bad. The current class that we put together with the transfers, it wouldn't be possible the previous year. So if it was going to be a year where we had to be behind, this was the best year for it. But they've got one hand tied behind their back, because what you can pitch at Alabama is, if you're an offensive recruit, look at what we've done on offense. If you're Dan Mullen and you're an offensive recruit, look at what Kyle Pitts, look at Trask, look at Tony, look at what I did. If you're a defensive recruit, Georgia's going to say, hey, look at what I did. If you're a defensive recruit, Clemson's going to say, hey, we were missing a couple pieces on defense, but look at where we were. Look at where we can get you. Here, Harsin cannot say, look at what I did at Auburn. Look at what Auburn has done on the field. At least half of the pitch is, what are you doing with the program on the field? And he has nothing to show right now. And that is what the adjustment, if any, would be. We've been pitching these guys process and system, and hey, here's how we would use you. Yeah, but what does it look like? They have no idea what to expect to come here as a piece on defense or offense. We've got a better defensive reputation right now, but we've completely changed hands as far as defensive scheme. Now, some of that may be similar. Some of it may be brand new, because all reports are Mason and his guys are really in the lab cooking up some new stuff, which is great. So we may have some more confidence. Recruits may have more confidence in us defensively, because at the very least, we've been putting guys in the league on defense. On offense, they don't have anything to show. So they're going to have to accelerate the relationship building, because that's where they're deficient right now. They just got down here, and then they had their hands full. You got to build a whole new program. You have to build a whole new schedule and standards and how are we going to check in with these guys? How are we going to have these guys communicating in meetings? All of this is brand new, And you get here with ground to make up because the recruiting class was in shambles.
And you had a dead period that just ended
and
a
you
month or two
couldn't
ago.
reach out. You couldn't make inroads with recruits. So now what they're saying is, all right, so we've been doing our best. We've been texting, calling, pitching. Recruits may have been able to come down for an 8-day game to see some open practice, but you don't know us. And we get that. And honestly, the reason that Big Cat right now, and we talked about it, but I didn't think about this. Our advantage on our staff is guys. By all reports, Zach Etheridge is a really cool guy, and he is a benefit as a recruit, as a recruiting tool for Auburn. The same thing with Eason, the same thing with Mason. I don't know. I have no idea how good a recruiter, an individual recruiter, not a program recruiter, an individual recruiter Harsin is. But if you talk to JG, because he's come on the show, he's like, Harsin's got a little bit of that. I don't know. He's dynamic. He can kind of shift phases and talk to the parents in a way that's necessary and that they're going to like it, and then relate to the players as well. And you see him doing it even at practice. So once he gets set and comfortable, I think this will be much easier for him. Once we've got product that's been on the field and on TV, and we've got some notable wins, it gets much easier. If Bo Nix turns into a QB prospect that is on NFL draft boards, then it gets even easier. But right now, there is nothing X's and O's that he can sell at Auburn, and you have to fill in some of that gap with relationship and being one-on-one and face-to-face with players. And I think that's what this is, and I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a pivot because, let's be clear about what the strength of Auburn's recruiting has been for a long time, and that's Auburn, the university, the town, right? That's not by anyone's account. Nobody's like happy to go take a trip to Boise State. Who's going to Idaho like, yes, I can't wait to get on campus down there and see what the campus life is about.
And you live in California.
If you name them, then I don't know them, right? So, but a portion of it, I'm not saying, Auburn is like a metropolis, but it's just a great campus to be on, right? And so that's a pretty huge selling point. That's an adjustment for people who haven't had that in their bag of tricks. They've always had to sell, what I can do for you as a football player and the X's and O's and putting you in the right position for your career in a place where they probably hadn't had the best opportunity to funnel people to the NFL. And they thought to themselves, oh, if I get on a more high profile school and then I sell that same thing, then those kids will want to come here. And they're not realizing a lot of that ain't got nothing, like a lot of what gets kids to come to your school has got nothing to do with all of that. And you can't even sell that to me right now because I don't have anything to show and prove that what you're selling me is actually a thing. What you can sell is this great campus life that's been here for decades. This wonderful campus that's here that has always been a selling point for people. So if you start to understand the unique quality of what you have to sell, then Big Cat Weekend becomes even more important because now you're going to not just get face-to-face with kids, you're going to get face-to-face with them in the environment that sells. Right? It's going to be a part of that whole thing. Ingratiate them to the school, the campus, the environment, the community. And then you're like, oh, man, this would be a cool place to come be a student athlete, right? Like not just the athlete part, but like actually be a guy on campus. It's going to be cool to be here, right? So you can start to add that to what you're selling. So you kind of have to understand that is a part of the puzzle. It's not just about the X's and O's. It's not just about, how well you're able to coach guys up and all that sort of thing. Because again, you don't really have a lot to sell me with that. I don't really know you. I wasn't watching you at Boise. We can go run tape, but like, all right, who cares, right? You're playing against Air Force, like, all right, ooh, big whoop.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, because let's be clear, that was a lot of Auburn fans' problem with the hire of Bryan Harsin. Not that his record wasn't good, not that he couldn't coach, not that he couldn't call plays well. It's where he was coming from. So, all right, why is that a big deal to me? I don't know you, and I definitely don't know your school.
Right.
Who were you playing up there in the Mountain West? Nobody. All right. So what makes you think that you can do that here and it's going to work? So that part is still a mystery to everyone. But what is not a mystery is Auburn's a really nice place to be at school. And we need to get these kids here and let them see it.
And if you can show that you can have the great environment that is Auburn and the Auburn family, and we can develop you and get you to the next level on top of that.
Right.
That's why if we win this year, man,
you create a machine. You're creating a machine is what you're doing. Because again, I think that's one of the big, to your point, that's what has allowed the previous coaching staff to be successful as long as they were recruiting, because you were able to sell people on something that is really tangible and real. And that's just that great family atmosphere that Auburn has.
And it's he came in and won his first year. So he had both
he
of the
did that
selling
too.
Points after year one. He was the offensive coordinator before he got here under the national championship team. Got here the first year, went to the national title game, and then you still have Auburn in your back pocket to sell. It was easy for him to land. Well, not say easy. It made it his job landing big recruits a lot easier, because the environment plus the near misses made it like, okay, well, I can come there and play. But it's just over time, you can't. That half of that stopped being a selling point, and it's like, I don't really know.
You start getting run off the field.
I don't know if this is true.
Way too many times.
You still got Auburn in your back pocket, so you're gonna land a couple of guys who are like, oh man, it's just a great place to come play, right?
Right. So. You're in SEC, great campus environment, the whole nine. Yeah, it works. But if go ahead.
No, I was gonna say with Bruce, like Bruce's first few years, he was doing what he could, and you could tell we were changing states. There wasn't a drastic uptick in wins the first couple of years. As a matter of fact, I remember thinking year 3, we're going to win the SEC tournament, and we didn't. It was year 4 that popped, and I don't know why it was 4 versus 3. But Bruce said after we made that Final Four, he said, getting to the Final Four got me meetings with kids that would not sit and talk about Auburn before, because I got some guys to the pros. And we advanced that far in the tournament. Success on the field or in the court in that sense, and getting guys to the next level. That puts you over the top. That's the advantage.
It's a little different with basketball. It's a much harder sell. Even though the campus is great, you aren't the same kind of star without the wins on a back. Like you can be on an average team and still be the big man on campus as a football player at Auburn. As a basketball player, you kind of have to win before people care. Like, if you're not winning, then nobody's really going to the games. It's because it's just not a football area. Like,
I feel you.
School, it's not a football area, right? So winning becomes that much more important. So that's actually even the bigger credit. Like, if we wanted to, Bruce Pearl is just amazing, right? To be able to eke out wins from an evaluation standpoint coming out of high school, talent that wasn't there, right? And he's able to build a successful program based upon that, and then pivot that and turn that into a program that has the one and done athletes wanting to come here consistently. It's just a whole different ballgame in the basketball arena now. And again, he still has Auburn in his back pocket. So now you've got the winning plus that, right? Football, you're still going to get some guys to come to Auburn because it's football, right?
Yeah.
But like to get the guys that will allow you to compete at the level of excellence that we want to see as fans of Auburn football, you're going to have to win, right? You got to couple some other stuff, but the environment itself is just going to have some guys come. Like, we talked to, a lot of former players. This is back when Auburn was kind of mediocre, right? And that, they said the reason that they wanted to come to Auburn was like, they didn't know anything about Auburn until they got to Auburn, and they were like, I kind of like it here. And so they decided to stay. But they, by all rights, should have probably stayed in Florida where they were, or should have stayed in Georgia where they were, because they didn't grow up as Auburn fans. The Auburn atmosphere sold them on Auburn University.
Yeah. And shout out to Walt, good friend of the show. Get him to God's country. 9 times out of 10, they will stay. I mean, listen, Auburn is, again, and I think Corey mentioned it earlier. I'm gonna shout him out here. Auburn's a special place, and yes, let's not forget that Virginia absolutely double dribbled. Okay,
yes,
and nothing else mattered after that. Yeah. Okay, that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I'm with you, Corey.
I think what they took.
I don't know if you got it. Whatever you got in your hand, drop it. That's your mic. I agree with you.
They accepted that very well, because I wouldn't have been that kind about it. If I was BP, he was very gracious and he was a very positive loser, because buddy, I don't know, man. I might have flipped that table over at that press conference. Nah.
Yeah,
I would have went to the press conference, man. They would have had to pull me out of that arena from fighting refs. For real.
I flipped the table over and I wasn't even there. So anyway, guys, you got anything else, man?
Nah.
Any other thoughts on this?
That was definitely rough though, but I don't have anything.
Well, listen, before we go, Ike, let the people know how they can put their name in to potentially win some tickets.
I'm gonna check and see how good y'all are. Maybe you didn't want to go away from the stream because you're watching on your phone. Let me go check the Twitter and see if we have some people retweeting this here. 4. I only have 4 retweets on this here tweet right now. Y'all don't want these tickets, man. Let me just stop giving away stuff. I'm just gonna stop giving away stuff. Y'all don't want to enter my drawing for my mugs. You don't want to retweet the thing on Twitter, and I don't want to hear all of this. I don't have a Twitter stuff. It takes like 35 seconds to sign up with Twitter. If you got an email address, you can get Twitter just to get these tickets. Follow us on Twitter. Retweet the dang tweet. All right, so you can get into the drawing and get you some tickets to this daggone game, man. Y'all playing around. Tickets to the Akron game. We're giving those away. Make sure you tap in with us for that. Of course, go donate money to help save animals. This is a beautiful thing that the Lee County Humane Society is doing, that they have decided to get in with us, Mike and myself, again, have the rescue animals in our homes. We're not just talking about something just because this is actually something that is a cause that we have made sure that we have taken upon in ourselves. And again, if you don't want to do the donation in GoFundMe because you're like, that feels weird, I don't want to do, go to the merch store, purchase you one of these tags, dog, cat, doesn't matter, put the tag on them. We'll put half of the proceeds for that towards that same cause. You need to be a member of the War Rapport community because we have dope things coming up. $5.99 is the amount to get you as an insider, and you are going to want to be able to do that as the season comes up. We've got a lot of exclusive content that will be coming very soon that will only be viewed by the insiders, and we're already doing some of that stuff. If you haven't started getting into the segment that we have with the By the Numbers segment, then I don't know what's going on with you, because that's really dope. Our insiders can tell you about what's going on with that. For the record, that's right. For the record is the name of that segment. We started out, it was going to be By the Numbers, and we changed the name.
Yeah,
so I'm still talking about old things. Anyway, merch store that is up and running right now. Get you some merch. I see the requests out there. We have been a little dark in our palette. I can get y'all some white t-shirts and some gray shirts, and if that's what's holding you back from getting your War Rapport merch, no fear. Ike Jones is here. I will get you some white and some lighter colors to be able to wear out there in that southern heat so that you don't absorb all of that heat when you're going out there on game days and representing the War Rapport. As well, again, we are live with the podcast out there. If you were missing anything on YouTube, or you have some other way that you want to be able to listen to this on your commute, in the shower, XYZ, don't worry, we got you. The podcast is up and running. Go there and catch all of our great content in audio format. That's it.
Last but certainly not least, man, before we jump out of here, we have some more super chats come in. Shout out Blake Robinson. I'm going to join the party, War Eagle fellas, and thanks for always bringing us this awesome show and everything else you do for us. We want to thank you, man, for always hanging out with us, man. You part of the War Rapport family, and we appreciate you hanging out with us live. I know sometimes you can't catch us, but until after the fact. So good to see you, Blake. Also, burner account, I can't with you, but this is hilarious. If Bo struggles and get benched, will the cameraman keep the same energy and pan to Patrick Nix every 5 minutes? Hilarious. Petty but funny. Petty. I'm always good. I'm always here for a good petty party. But appreciate you guys, man, for hanging out with us, man. Also, what you can also do to help us is share our video. We definitely need you to share the video. We know some of y'all are on social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. Please be sure to share our video using hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also find us, particularly if you're not on Facebook, or if you're on Instagram or Twitter, it's at The War Rapport. If you're on TikTok, we're TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys, but we will definitely see you and catch up with you later this week. Until then, and as always, it is War Eagle.
War Eagle.